Welcome to Conversations with Winsala. Today I have with me a woman in tech. I have my boss, but she'll not agree she's my boss. She has worked and she has, I would say, enough experience to talk about this particular topic we have today. So just to give a brief introduction where we'll have a technical product manager talk about the technical product management, especially when you have a product that is under tech. You want to bring in the technical side of it. You want to bring in the engineers, the test engineers, the software engineers, everybody that's more junior towards the engineering of the product. Let me just stop here before I keep rambling on. I would like Adebola Aguda to introduce herself as she pleases. Hi, Adebola.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
I think this has been a long time coming, so super excited to be talking about, you know, some of these topics. Just brief intro. My name is Adebola. I'm a technical product manager at Microsoft. I started off with my background in computer science, so I actually moved to the US in 2011. My initial goal really was to study game design and visualization, but things led to one thing and another. Ended up studying computer science. um, Graduated, worked as a developer for a few years. So I used to be a .NET developer, and I mostly worked with consulting companies that were focused in the financial space. um, and then eventually transitioned into system architecture, automation development. And as I started to move through the ranks and just go through this whole life cycle, realized that I wanted to just become a little less technical, and more customer facing, but still technical in a way. So it's a very interesting mix. And then I was a consultant for about 4.5 years. Um, and then eventually ended up at a big tech company now where I'm a product manager in our Azure cloud engineering product team, focused specifically on Azure deployments. So everything that is being deployed through Azure comes through the products that we work on. So that's what I do right now. That's brief background. So I like to say that I have both a technical and a business acumen when it comes to technology, software engineering, um, not just bringing in the technical standpoint, but also, strategy and, working with all of the various members that really make sure that we have an actual fully fleshed and functional product. So
mm.
yeah, that's me.
So I would say I've had an interesting journey so far because
Yeah.
in my discussions with product managers, I noticed that I do not have experience to have in terms of the technical part where you literally you were a program, know how to code, you know the integrity, you know what goes into programming, coding. So I would say you are more than qualified to talk about this. So let's say I have a product, right? I spoke with an entrepreneur first episode. I have a
Yeah.
product. How do you put to that old picture when I say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to make this product. So how do you contribute to creating and making that into fruition?
Yeah, so there's really two ways to think about it, right? There's new products and then there's existing products, right?
Right.
For the most part, I tend to work with existing products, things that are already there, that already have a customer base, that already have, full teams working on them. but we're looking to expand this even more into different areas. So coming into a space like that, and so I'm going to talk in terms of an actual existing product, right?
Okay.
Coming into a space like that, the first thing that you're really doing is talking to your existing customers, right? And sometimes your customers might be, the daily person who's walking down the street today who's using their phones. Tomorrow, your customer can be an actual back end engineer, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
all of those engineers actually they're using products to do their work. So in my space, for example, we're talking about deployments. The people
Mm-hmm.
actually doing the deployments are engineers, right? So having that conversation with them to really understand, like, what is it that they do on a daily basis, right? And where are their pain points? I think from a product standpoint, that is one of the most important things to really understand. What is the pain point? What are the issues that they're having, right? And what are the personas? Like, who is really our customer in this case? Once you're able to identify that, then we like to call it specification, right? We start writing. So we start to spec out this new or even existing products, or even this enhancement to this existing product. And so we start looking at different areas, right? So we look at the security, we look at the architecture, we look at the workload, we look at, do we even have the systems to be able to handle this level of expansion, right?
Mm.
Um, and so a lot of this is done even before we even bring in our developers to the team, or even our system architects um, into this work that we're doing. So as a technical product manager, sometimes you're wearing the hat as a system architect as well. So this is where you're basically doing the job of not just a product manager, where you're also essentially like building out this framework. And then once you're done with that, then we eventually now take this to our engineers to say, hey, can we actually do this? Can we actually build this? Can we
Mm.
um, is this something that is even feasible based on your own even in-depth like code knowledge, right?
Mm.
Sometimes my work involves actually, going into the databases, running various queries, seeing how we can even combine various data that we have from so many different tables. Like, is this something that we can actually do? So for me, a lot of my work is very technical in the sense that I have to be able to come up with that solution, that innovative solution, before I even bring it to my engineers, because a lot of the engineers they're super busy, right? And
Mm.
so until you have that, it doesn't make sense to even bring them in. And it works very differently in different companies. I've had companies where the engineers are the ones who define what needs to be built. But when we start looking at, more fully skilled, the Google, Facebook, the Microsofts, all of them, it's very different the way they operate.
Yeah.
So the program managers and product managers are essentially the ones who come up with those solutions before they're even built. Um, so yeah,
So
that's essentially that.
yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
So what separates you from a program manager? What separates you as a technical program manager from a program manager?
So a program manager, or product manager, and again,
Sorry,
these
product
words have
manager. Yes,
very,
technical
yes,
product manager versus a product manager.
these words have very different nuances, but I'll just say that technical standpoint is definitely what separates those two roles, right? So a product manager can be customer facing all day every day. Sometimes they don't even need to, like, their job does not might not even include them going deep into any line of code. It's great to
Mm.
have that knowledge, right? But as a technical program manager, the way you're thinking is very different. You're thinking from a data standpoint, you're thinking from a technical standpoint. For example, just something that I'm working on right now, it involves a lot of me doing numerous queries. I'm talking like 40, 50 lines of querying just to be able to see, is this something we can build? Okay, we can build this. Okay, we need to join these two tables together. And, you know, parse through this and then send this over to my developers and say, okay, this is what you guys need to go build, right? So that technical piece is really that what really separates those two roles. But again, a product manager can have technical expertise in anything if they really want to. Again, it just depends on the area, the space. A lot of technical product program managers or product managers usually, for the most part, used to be developers. So a lot of
Right.
these big tech companies, you will see that they were either senior engineers or principal, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then come in as program managers, technical program managers slash product managers. So they
Product
always have
managers.
that technical background. Yeah.
So, uh, what advice do you have for someone who's trying to get into your space? So I'm going to put that in two parts. Like,
Yeah.
what are the tools? What are the tools that they need to know to be able to function in your role or your future role? For the interviews, that if you're interviewing someone for your role, what are the things that the person will tell you to come as proficiency?
So honestly, a lot of times the tools again would vary based on the company. But for me, for example, my daily tools involve a lot of like coastal database querying, Power BI, a lot of Word documentation. So we
Mm-hmm.
write a lot. So you'll find yourself writing like 30-page specifications on why we should build this and this is how it needs to be built, right?
Mm,
A lot of teams, sending a lot of emails. You need to track all of that and, various tools. It could be ADO, some people use Jira, whatever it is. Tools like that are really what we use. Physio in terms of like mapping out end to ends as well.
mm,
So those are a lot of the tools that I use on a daily basis. And then any new tool that we're using within the actual company, you have to be able to pick it up very fast. So when you're
true.
being interviewed, one of the things that you definitely want to show is how quickly you are able to pick up new tools, new skills, right?
Technologies, yeah.
New technologies, exactly. Um, you don't have to be proficient in a specific thing. No, you really don't have to, but you have to be able to show that you're able to pick that up very quickly. A lot of the questions you will get will be split out into multiple different areas. So you would have like an analytical section, you would have a section on design, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to talk about that design strategy before you even get into the technical. So, and this is where it gets interesting because you have some people that are very technical and they would come into that interview and just start giving you like, okay, this is
Technical
how you build a
terms,
database.
yeah.
This is the tables you need. This is
Mm,
it's not always like that, right? So you want to be able to also come in from a strategy standpoint and say, okay, let me go research what my customers need. Then we can
mm.
figure out how to build
How
it,
to meet,
right?
yeah, meet those needs,
So
yeah.
those are the ways you want to think about interviewing for like a technical program manager, product manager interview. Being able
Mm.
to bring in that, it's kind of like a Venn diagram, right? That middle point between that strategy and technical is what
Technical
you really
parts.
want to think about. Yeah.
Mm. This is one topic I would say passionate about, but
Yeah.
it gives me a concern. Right from my I would say high school days, college, grad school, I barely see women see them in my classes. I barely saw them in my classes. I barely saw them in my workspace. So how do you get diversity? It's I don't want us to, I want us I don't know how we can talk about this
Mhm.
political correct, but how is life generally as a woman in STEM?
Oh, so I don't really know how I feel about the word politically correct because everyone is going to have their own view of what you say.
Yeah.
It's not easy. That's just it. Like very simple. 7 years ago when I started working, I would get into meetings and people are like, "Oh, are you a tester?" Nothing
Mm.
against testers, right? But why can't I be a developer, right?
Yes.
Now layer the part of there's three parts to it. I'm an immigrant, I'm a woman, and then I'm
And
in
you're black.
tech, and I'm black, right? So it's like, okay, what's this one doing here? Like, why are you here?
Mm.
Um, and as time has gone by, right, there's been a lot of various organizations, various mentors, people that are coming into this space and really just breaking those barriers, right? And I think what has really started to work is people having that mentorship, right? As a
Mm.
woman, if you're in this space, find a high school kid, a college kid, mentor them, because that way they're able to feel that level of support.
Mm.
I've worked with so many different demographics of people, that typically tend to look against, look down on people, that are not in their own demographic. You look at
Right.
them as,
Right.
oh, okay, well, yeah, this person, yeah, this is what you look like, so this is what we expect of you. And then you get into a room and you're like, oh, okay, so this person's actually smart,
Now
right?
you
That is
smart.
very
Yeah.
normal. That is
Yes.
very typical. We see it all day, every day, right?
Mm.
And that's the point where you just have to let your work show for itself. And unfortunately, we have to work like 5 times, 10 times
Times.
harder than people.
Right.
It really sucks. It's
Yes.
like having this chip on your shoulder all the time. Like, okay, if I don't do this right, are they going to assume it's because I'm this color or because I'm a woman? It's always going to be like, it's going to take a while. So it's not a very easy space to be in, I'll be very honest. But I think this is where you work makes a whole lot of difference.
Mm.
One thing that I love about my company is the fact that there's so much diversity. I Every day I'm working with people from today Siberia, tomorrow Guatemala, like people from different areas, different accents, different, like, being able to be in a space like that makes you feel comfortable and welcome, right? Because you
Mm.
know that you're not the only one that looks different, right? Everyone has
Everyone
their
is
own. So being able to just navigate spaces like that, and for people that are in companies where, um, you might not feel welcome, honestly, that's just toxic, to be honest. Like, it's just toxic.
true.
It's very toxic, and you might find yourself in a situation where you cannot get out yet for whatever reason. um
Mm.
you need to find that support. And as we, as women and men, even of color, and I'm going to say of color because, you know where both of us on this conversation are black, right? This
Yes.
is where as we continue to climb up that ladder, we need to bring our own people with us as well.
Mm. So
um
so my next question will
yeah.
be, um how, so does you uh do you think diversity plays a role in how you look at products, and how so? So for example, I remember a few years back somebody claimed
Mhm.
that I think it was a he or a E couldn't use the soap dispenser in the public bathrooms because of the color, couldn't recognize their color. And there's this huge documentary on Netflix where this lady spoke about how there's been bias in AI to against people of color. So um, do you think diversity has a role to play in how we product and how?
Absolutely. It has a role to play, and it should have a role to play. And if your company or whatever product you're building is not taking into account that, then you're leaving like a huge gap in that space. Because you have to be able to cater to everyone, right? It's very hard to cater to everyone, that's the truth. But you have to be able to say, look, where and I guess from a business standpoint, to be very honest, you're leaving money on the table. You really
Right,
are leaving money on
right,
the table if you
right.
decide that, I'm just going to cater to this color of people. I'm just going to ignore the rest. So what happens to the rest of the people? So what ends up happening is then they go create their own product, right? You
As a
see
rival
companies,
to you.
yeah, you see like apps like Airbnb, where people are like, listen, I'm black and I'm trying to get an Airbnb, but I'm renting from, is being biased against me,
Discriminating. Yeah.
is discriminating against me. So you know what they do? Then Black people have gone and created their own app, right? So you have to be able to cater to that. You have to be able to cater to um, even people with disabilities. Like these are things that have to. It's 2022, right? And this is the era of woke culture and
Mm-hmm.
also cancellation. So a lot of companies would easily get canceled because they're not fully incorporating everybody into their products. So it's
Products.
just
Yeah.
it's very important. You have to, and this is where making sure that you have diverse people in your company comes to play, because if everyone in a room that determines what a product should be all looks the same, how are they going to determine what somebody else should need, right?
Mm.
So everybody, this is why you need diverse people. This is why we Black, Caucasian, whatever color you are, we need to be in these systems so that we can actually advocate for these products and making sure that everybody is able to use them.
Mm. I remember I had a discussion with one recruiter about
Yeah,
how diversity is a huge role on how people use products. So, for example, the way women use Instagram is different from the way men use Instagram.
absolutely.
So, if you are creating a product, you have to like consider how these interactions come to play. TikTok,
Yep.
um, Facebook, even Facebook is one of like a huge example of how diversity needs to be used, because young people, black, white, like the way we
Yep.
use those products, like it's crazy. It just
Yeah.
differs. It's so funny to look at. So you as a technical product manager, how do you ensure diversity? Because you are creating a product, right? You
Yeah.
are the one that's spearheading how people will create, and you would also find a way to uh find a way or how people would navigate that product, ensuring it's created properly, and you're also ensuring that it
Yeah.
is used properly. So we are both for for in-house and out customers. So how do you
Yeah.
ensure diversity is being put on the table as a priority?
This this is the part where talking to your customers is super essential, right? Like you cannot build a product without understanding your customer base. I think I talked about this earlier, right?
Yes.
If you are working on something and you realize that, hold on, half of my customer base, or at least people that are asking for new products, right, or for new functionality, maybe they're disabled, right? Now
Mm,
you need to make sure that you're able to have auto captions on that product, right? Whatever it is that you're
right.
releasing, because now you're catering to all those that demographic as well.
True.
And you start seeing things like as a product manager, some of the things that we do is a few things like A/B testing, right? So A and B testing. We create a product. We create, let's just say a screen, for example. We do it in this A format and we do it in this B format. We take those
Mm-hmm.
two, we give them to our potential customers, right? And say, hey,
Mm-hmm.
test, tell me which you like better, right? That is
Mm,
feedback, right? So
yes.
that kind of feedback, those kind of surveys, those are things you have to be able to listen to your customers, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to use what you're
Use the
building. So
products. Yeah.
the two words are customer centric and customer empathy. If you do not have empathy for your customers, you're gonna fail. Simple.
Mm, mm,
So
that makes sense. Um, so so now let's go back to the we have this topic today, and
yeah.
this creating a product. How do you convince the owner, the CEO of your company to to take diversity as a priority? Because most CEOs, what they're thinking about is, okay, I want to create this product, and how much can I make from this product? So, how
Mhm.
do you this CEO that diversity needs to be put on the table? Because considering that you are a woman, a black woman in his is male dominated, and mostly, I won't say white, but because of the country where we are in, we have more white people.
Yep.
Have more white people in certain industry. Yeah, how do you convince your CEO?
So, I'm not gonna say my CEO because it's very different where I am. But in a hypothetical situation, right?
Yes,
Your This is a business, regardless of what we think. It is a business. There's investors. There are
yes,
people who are being reported back to, right? Money.
mm-hmm.
Every business wants to make money, right?
Right,
Um, so this is a situation where you have to be able to advocate for those people that are being left out,
mm.
and also bring in the data to back it, right?
Mm.
If you say, hey, we need to tap into this market, this is what the returns are going to be. So we're not just doing it from for you, right? You understand you understand the emotional part of this, right? You understand what this means to you and your team, right? But
Yes,
it doesn't mean that this roundtable of the leaders are going to understand that. Some people might
see,
understand that. Some people might
yes,
understand, "Listen, I just want money," right? And so that's why whenever you're bringing your slides, whatever it is that you're bringing to them, needs to be able to not just talk about the the um, the cultural goal, but also talk about how this
that'll make money.
impacts the business in the long term. Because now you're not just talking about a product that's going to, solve one thing, right? There has
Mm.
to be a long-term vision, a long-term strategy, right? Like if we're
Mm.
catering to this market, this is a long-term strategy. And from a financial standpoint, for those of you who want to know, this is what it's going to bring back. So I think being able to piece in those two areas is really is very tricky, but is also very important, because you don't want to seem as if you're piggybacking off like a certain culture.
Right.
Um, but you also want to, it's a very tricky and gray area, but you also have to, it has to be done. It has to be done. And unfortunately, this ladder of corporate America, um, at least as of now, requires that we have to be able to talk about how does this bring money to the business.
Yes. Mm.
So,
Mm.
so that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So my final question: um, how do you do to a 7-year-old?
Okay. Um, how do I explain being a cloud engineering product manager to a 7-year-old? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Not necessarily, not necessarily, because that's too narrow.
okay.
But as a technical product manager,
Okay. Um, so you have an Xbox, right? Um,
7-year-old.
a 7-year-old has an Xbox. Yeah, they all do. Most of them have
Okay.
Xboxes. They have gaming devices, right? You have an Xbox and you want to play a game, but you don't. Your mom hasn't bought all these games. She hasn't bought these games from the store.
Mm.
Um, so you turn on your Xbox and you start searching. I'm responsible for making sure that you're able to see all the games that you like, and also be able to click on it and also
Mm.
be able to play it. So when you decide that the game you want to play is Minecraft, I am responsible for making sure that Minecraft is available to you to play. That is probably the easiest way I can explain what I do. Um, like I try to bring in like the cloud piece of it, and also bring in like the product piece of it, which is Minecraft or Xbox, right? But yeah, that's probably the easiest way I can explain what I do.
uh, you know what I will do after this season? I will
Yeah.
cut out the explain your work to 7-year-old, and I will 7-year-olds and ask them, "Do you understand what this person does?" So
They probably
we'll now
won't.
give all, we will now mark all of you. of grades. We'll see who pass
They
or who
probably
fails.
won't. They
It's
probably
not me.
won't. They probably
So,
won't. But
anyways, thank you for this brief conversation. I plan to continue with other set of people, but I'm definitely going to you, as I said to Larry, because it seems like there's a lot to talk about when it comes to product and group product management. Because I still
yeah,
have my own personal questions about what differentiates you people from systems engineers, product managers, program managers, technical product managers,
right.
project management, project managers. Because it seems like there's a lot of overlap going on around,
Yeah,
and especially in tech. So would I'll probably have you and Larry come together for that. Much for your time, and hopefully we'll catch up in the coming days. Abi?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Happy to join.
yeah,
Right. Well, thanks for having me.
yeah.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.